My guest today is Lucas Johnson, Chief Commercial Officer at Breeze Airways. Lucas, thank you so much for spending some time with me today.
Great, thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, great. So I think let's start off with like a big picture thing. The U.S. domestic market is going through another disruption. Obviously, the big thing now is Spirit and their Chapter 11. What does that mean for Breeze?
Yeah, it's a certainly an exciting industry. There's always new things happening at every time, and so I think what you're saying is you know certainly a big shift in how leisure markets have operated. Predominantly leisure VFR markets have operated over the last 5+ years, right? And so as they progress through Chapter 11, you're going to see a lot of other airlines, which you've already seen, certainly make some network changes that are areas that they think they can capitalize on. A carrier that may be shrinking, likely shrinking, right? And so I think people are positioning around and looking at what the landscape is looking like, potentially with a smaller or reduced carrier there.
How about Breeze? What's your reaction going to be?
Yeah, again, we don't have a ton of direct overlap or anything on that side. I think there's certainly some markets that we're the best market for, and that goes for really any carrier. And as carriers exit or enter and move capacity around, when there's opportunities for us that we think we are the best carrier for specific city pair, those are the ones we're going to go after. And so,
Okay.
I suspect more of those are going to pop up, with them going through Chapter 11 a second time.
So it really, you guys will do what everybody else does, is cherry pick.
Yeah, but it may not directly be something that they're operating if another carrier drops something that, may have been marginal for them. I think we're the right market for right plane, right model for a number of markets, right?
Right. The Hawaiian and Alaska deal doesn't really impact you at all, does it?
Not to a large degree, no.
Okay. This week, Avelo announced this huge order for E2s. And from my perspective, it would seem to me that Avelo and Breeze are in this tight space between the low-cost carriers and the regionals, and you guys are nifty and exploiting wherever you can see gaps. I don't know if that's a fair assessment.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at a straight E2 to A220 comparison, they're certainly going to be the most similar types for sure in the space between those. But the business models are certainly in philosophies are a bit different, I would say, on that side. And I think that's naturally there's certainly we've come in and we've invested a lot in product and brand experience on that side up front, which takes a ton of money with a new plane. And some, you really got to build your whole company around that. So I think for them with the E2, they'll have to make a decision. They've still got a 7-3 fleet, and it's just a very different model having a brand new aircraft, a much higher fixed cost piece on that side. And yeah, so even though it'll be a similar kind of gauge plane, certainly still going to be some differences there. And yeah,
You expect to run into them
yeah.
increasingly
I mean, I
when
think
the E2 arrives?
yeah, I would say where there's certain areas that there may be some natural, this is the best gauge for the market, but again. It's still very different in terms of the commercial philosophies. Their current model has exited more airports than they even operate in. So again, they're going to have to find new cities that take in. I know it's an efficient plane, but still at the end of the day, you still need to have a business plan that can generate guests flying.
Mhm. Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to watch how the natural tendency for everybody in this industry is to cherry pick. And it's going to be that this cherry works better for you, that cherry works better for them. There's a nuance in the flavor, but everybody's going to be trying to optimize. So this, as you said at the start, it's always fascinating.
Yeah, I mean the good thing is the U.S. is a huge market. Certainly, there's enough space if you're finding unique ways to do. And I think that's really the way the U.S. has been headed for a long time. Is if you've got, especially on the low cost side or smaller side, you need to differentiate yourselves. And so that's really, if your entire model is being a spill carrier, and those larger carriers at any given time can put pressure. So really, creating unique city pairs or unique city flows are going to be the most important things.
Okay, there are a lot of critics out there in the industry, people like pundits like myself, I suppose, and others that criticize Breeze going after the EAS contracts. What's your response to that criticism?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I don't quite understand. I mean, this was at the government asking for more bidders into a program, so I don't think you can fault somebody for actually trying to put up a competitive bid on that
Right.
side. They're trying to actually make the program more efficient by encouraging more carriers to apply. It doesn't actually mean you're operating it. So, I mean, per seat, I think we're the lowest cost per seat in each of the bids we've gone out. So I don't think I think that criticism would be a bit unwarranted.
Yeah. The response is as I expected. Okay, so at some stage, you mentioned that the US market is big, but at some stage, sooner maybe rather than later, you're going to run out of the industry runs out of domestic opportunities. David Neeleman, when the first E2 delivery was going to Azul, I was in the room when he was talking about putting long-range tanks in the 220-300 to increase the range capabilities. Can you update us on any opportunities that are being considered outside the traditional US market? Are you guys looking at longer haul opportunities with with big tanks?
I'd say the great thing about the plane is really versatile, and that's what we bought into with the 220. And it does transcons. It goes from our longest route currently is Providence to LAX, which is nearly as far as you can go domestically in the lower 48. But also some very short range missions. And so for us, that flexibility to be able to move around has been key. So nothing that I would say imminently is going to be super long range or anything like that. But I think it always gives us the flexibility to pivot and change if market opportunities arise.
So you don't need to add tanks for something like Mexico or Canada.
Yeah, correct. So if you're staying within kind of the North America sphere, you don't need to add tanks.
And would you be considering places in Alaska, Canada, or Mexico?
Yeah, we've finished up our international proving runs with the FAA. We actually finished it up 2 days ago. It's gone great. So, we'll see how international develops with us. But again, the philosophy I think for us is going to be again unserved markets from our points of strength, and we'll see how the model develops from there.
Okay, so stay tuned is the message.
Yes, yeah. Stay tuned.
Okay. While on the subject of the 220, how's the airplane working out for you guys?
It's good. There's always a bit of teething with a newer model, but and certainly I'm sure you're going to ask about engines.
That's my next one.
Yeah, engines for us. It's certainly been a challenge, but I will say this is certainly something that David has special skill on, kind of having the foresight to understand where the engines were headed, and to be able to work out some deals with some of the between your engines and leasing companies that we haven't been able to we haven't had to sit any planes down on the 220. We haven't had any grounded planes. We've gotten ahead of the engine issue on that side and been able to weather it. So it's frustrating that you have to put so many engines into the shop, but also we're not grounding or canceling any flights on that side. So I think we've managed through about as good as you can.
Who does the engine maintenance for you?
Well, it's our friends up in Pratt for the most part. So
So you go to the mothership.
yeah. Well, I mean, depending on where you can get slots, and that's really been more of the challenge is where are you actually getting access to overhaul slots or
Right.
maintenance slots for to fix the engines.
It's interesting you mentioned that because it seems to me that when I look at the airlines complaining about GTF situation, the airlines that have their own shops, you don't hear a word from them. Like
Yeah.
for example, Delta or United, they just take care of it themselves. But
Yeah.
Indigo in India and Wizz in Europe, they don't have their own shops, so they're constantly hunting for a slot somewhere for MRO.
Correct. Yeah, and that's been the challenge is actually just MRO throughput, as you're aware, for multiple different types. And but yeah, again, we were, I think had a lot of proactive ness on our side to make sure that we weren't getting behind. And you've got a single fleet that you're moving towards, and so if you have an issue with a significant issue with that fleet, it's kind of life or death for a carrier. So we're it's something that's always on our mind.
Right. And fuel burn on the airplane is proven to be
Yes, it's
the way
great.
you
The
expected or
economics.
better.
I would say right around there. Yeah, it's been very efficient. Certainly unlocks a lot of unique things that we can do with it. And again, depending on where we're going, short, medium, long on that side, we've been pretty happy with the performance. And again, it's a different configuration than the E2 when we looked at it. It's a 2x3 versus a 2x2. Adding a first class section is much more efficient on the 220, which has been something that from day one we've on the 220 launched with a we call it Breeze Ascent, but it's kind of your domestic first product, and that's something that we think we were ahead of the premium leisure trend on that side.
Right. What is your average stage length system
So
wide?
we're just over 800 miles right now, statute
So
miles.
so you're way under the range limit of the airplane.
Yes, yeah, actually. Yeah, so I mean we have 2,600 mile and also 100 miles. So if you're just looking at the average, your average sector is just between 2 hours and 15 minutes, 2 hours and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that again, it's a pretty big split. If you looked at our network, it's a lot up and down the East Coast, and then some transcons.
Right. Well, you got to go where the cherries are, right?
Yep.
Okay, if I look 5 years out, what do we expect to see with Breeze?
Yeah, we'll be through our right now we've got 90 firm with 30 options on the 220s. And so that'll take us through that. You're certainly going to see us with a lot more destinations. We added 29 airports last year. So still growing. But it's really, again, the focus of the model is around can you create and build markets that otherwise would be not served by other carriers. Certainly, we attract plenty of attention for one reason or another. People love to take interest in what markets we're flying in. But for us, the focus is can we demonstrably prove that you've got a winning niche that really only you're best served, and that's what feels really good given all the progress we've made. So if you look forward 5 years out, certainly there's international will be a growing piece. We'll have built out several more focus cities and bases. We kind of launch around two-ish bases a year, 2 to 3 bases a year, which is based aircraft. It's a little bit of a hybrid between your traditional low cost, out and back basing. But we think about it the same thing. It's a unit. It's got, planes, crews, maintenance, on that side. So I'd expect us to continue to creep around the country with new exciting base announcements on that side. That'll unlock new city pairs and on the range side.
That's
A
fantastic.
lot.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right.